Instead of worrying about what you cannot control, shift your energy to what you can create. Roy T Bennett. So excitement and anxiety, they're both very intense emotions, but the thing about them is that the same chemical reaction happens in your mind for excitement and anxiety. So the same chemicals are released in your mind that deal with anxiety and excitement, but the only thing that differs between the two is how you determine it. So what you're thinking about will ultimately determine how your physiological, what happens in physical reality. You know what I mean? So like excitement is associated with positive outcomes. So if you're thinking about positive outcomes, things that will end up going well, that's excitement. Anxiety is like thinking about the negative outcomes and thinking about, will it go wrong? And even down to like when I was talking about the physical, you have the same kind of things that happen. So your heart may beat fast, you may sweat, you may talk fast, you may have sweaty palms, that kind of thing. So they're very similar, but it's all about how you interpret it. So a couple years ago when I was in South Africa with my father, he had taken me out there and I got to perform on a set with a French artist named Dajla. That was an artist that he was working with, and I had been rehearsing, been training for it, that kind of thing, but a very real moment happened when I got to the side of the stage and we're about to walk on, and I tap on the microphone and I could hear it out in the crowd. Yeah, just like that. I could hear it out in the crowd, and all of the excitement that I had, it kind of turned into nervousness, because I'm like, yo, this is real. Like, oh, there's people out there. I actually have to go do this. So
is this thing on?
Yeah, literally. So after I tap on the microphone, I'm like, oh my gosh, my heart is beating, and we're about to walk out, and my dad he turns around and asks me if I'm ready. And I was like, yeah, I'm ready. And my heart is jumping out of my chest. So we get on stage and it ends up being okay. So my feelings of anxiety and like nervousness slowly begin to fade away because I was prepared for the moment. So I went to go perform and it ended up going smooth, and all of that anxiety I had just was straight excitement. It was just, I was amped up because it was a positive outcome. I was thinking positive toward it, you know what I mean? So for the citizens, I wanted to ask, when was there a time in your life when you identified your anxiety but it was actually excitement?
And we'll open up the phone lines for that, because I think we all deal with that scenario. I know John is somebody who's been in the boxing ring, right, and you've trained, but it's nothing like when you actually go into a boxing match prior to it, not knowing if you're going to get your block knocked off or something like that, right? So I'm sure you feel anxiety
at first.
Right?
But then once you get involved with it down the road, you can handle it. But at first, there's that moment of like, oh, no, here it comes. But then, of course, you start getting punched in the face, and then you sort of focus.
Bring it back to life.
Here we go.
So we started the show off with this picture of me running track, right? And as a young man, and Lonnie Light, I could relate to it. I'm sure a lot of callers could relate to this too, 888-742-3345. But we used to train all week. And the whole entire week, I would have that kind of feeling of anxiety, almost fear that, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to run the 400 meters at some point, and it's days away, and it's just festering in me, right?
Yeah. And by the way, the coaches over at the gym actually warn people about it. Like, hey, listen, be careful of that adrenaline dump. When you get out there, these people don't know. They're going to get really amped up, really excited, and they're just like, they're going to get exhausted.
You get exhausted.
So that adrenaline dump.
And it can physically exhaust you, right?
Absolutely.
And then going through that process so many times as a kid, and then realizing that, because as soon as the gun goes off, you lose, all of that disappears, right? And then you just in your race. And then you finish and you feel so relieved and so accomplished.
Yeah.
And so as I got older, I would take that became transcending for me, because I would take those same feelings and apply it to other things. First time getting on the mic, performing on stage. First time getting on MTV, hosting a live show. First time getting on radio. I always would take that anxiety and use it as almost like a gateway for creativity.
Yeah.
right? Because I knew what the end result could be, and so I started looking at I started welcoming anxiety,
Yes.
because I knew what I can do with it, right? I knew that, with this, I got energy, I care. This is going to produce something. The byproduct of this is what made me excited, because I knew whatever was going to come out on the other side was going to be an advancement. It was going to be something creative. It was going to be something beautiful, right?
I do something very. I don't mean to cut you off, but I do something very similar to that. Like when you feel the anxiety and the nervousness, those feelings will never not exist. Like they'll always be there. But it's how we interpret it. So I choose to think positively over negative, because those feelings are going to be there regardless. You know.
I feel like Will Smith touched on this a little bit, Heather, when we had this conversation about something similar. He said it's what's your perspective on the problem,
it's all about perspective and how you look at it. And my thing is always, I want this, what I want is bigger than the anxiety or the fear.
Yeah.
That's just how I had to compartmentalize it all. Like what I want is actually bigger than that, and I just fight through it.
What's your thoughts on this, Tracy?
I think that once you hold the hand of preparation, that will carry us through.
Facts.
You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to like work related presentations, speaking engagements. My sister on Sunday, she had to do a big speaking engagement in front of a lot of like doctors who have been in the game for 20 plus years, you know? And so she called me because she could just feel her spirit was rattling, and I had to remind her of her preparation, but I also had to remind her to remove herself. Like, don't make it about herself. It's about her service. You know what I'm saying? And so one thing I shared with her too, which I'll also remind myself when it comes to speaking engagements, because although it can be easier, but the nerves, the anxiety, the excitement, like Lonnie Light said, it's always present. So the way I kind of gently put it from the driver's seat to the passenger seat is by reminding myself to tap on God to use me as a vessel. You know, I'll say, God, this microphone is yours. Speak through me, you know? And that way it's not so much about how people are perceiving Tracy, judging Tracy. Oh, let me give this performance that, you know, grants me all of this attention and acclaim and flowers, blah, blah, blah. It's about, no, how am I delivering this message to actually glorify God? And it's easier for me to do something sometimes for God than it is to do it for myself.
And it gets you there, right?
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Let's open up the phone lines. Lonnie Light, what's the question?
When has there been a time in your life when your anxiety was actually excitement?
888-742-3345.